up, she said it was a full-grown man, extremely muscular, but it was a reptile body, reptile alien head. And she said this thing looked at me, and I'm looking at it in the mirror. And she said he started moving toward me without moving his legs. He was just floating toward her, slowly. And she said, I felt like it was like coming up on a fly. He was, grab it quick. And she said she jumped up and screamed and ran down the hallway, ran into the bathroom, locked the door, opened the window, and started screaming. Of course, everybody in the neighborhood heard. She said, and when I heard, and this reptile alien, she said, came down the hallway, and I could feel that him walking because he was so heavy. And he was scraping on the door, growling like a dinosaur growl, scraping on the door. And she said then when our father and the neighbors come running up, they opened the door. When they come running up, they were yelling outside. This reptile alien ran back down the hallway into our bedroom and disappeared. She said when her father came in, the bathroom door was just ripped. And obviously, the father said he was not going to hurt her, but it was a message. And he said, that's why I never wanted her to stay alone. Because these aliens have told us, the Air Force, that you keep poking your nose into our business. Every time something happens, you come out and poke your nose. So we just want you to know, the next time something happens and you poke your nose into our business, while you're out here poking your nose into our business, some of us are going to come visit your daughter. So you need to stay home and stay out of our business. And so he said, so that's why they always had military around anytime he left. And so when she was telling me this story about other reptile aliens, and of course I've heard it from so many legitimately important people, I have to believe that there is something to this story. I have personally not seen one, but I don't want to. But I've seen enough to know that there are life forms on this earth which are not from here. I've already seen too much to know that. My experiences have been extraordinary, as I said. 36 major experiences I've had in my life where I've dealt with other world phenomena. So, I don't know.
Okay, well, this is a really amazing interview. Can you talk at all about anything else that you think that people should know in terms of the overall picture that you've been giving them here?
I would say be aware that there is a war for your soul. There is a war for the spiritual. There's always been this question for thousands of years. All the great philosophers ask it about whether we are physical bodies which have a spirit in it, or are we originally a spirit which has taken on a physical body? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? But I am convinced that no matter how it happens, if we were physical and took on a spirit, or maybe we were a spirit and took on a physical body, I believe that there is a war going on from somebody out there that was an original enemy of whoever created us. So whoever created us has enemies out there in the universe that are diabolical enemies. And we know this is true in government. You may see the president and the first lady and all of that, and it's very prom and proper, but they have enemies, powerful enemies. That's why they have to be totally surrounded by military and protection, because they have serious enemies. Something happened to me that tells me that there's something going on like that. I was in Hawaii many years ago with my wife and some friends. We went to Hawaii for the first time. And I was sitting in a restaurant across the street from the Hilton Village. And in the restaurant, which is a main drag, a main strip, and I was sitting with my back to the door. And someone came in, and I immediately had an electrical charge go through my body. It's bad enough being shocked by the wall plug, but if you don't know it's coming, it's even worse. And I was sitting at the table talking, and all of a sudden, somebody came in, and an electrical shock went through me, and I knocked the stuff on the table. I knocked water and stuff on the table, and I jumped up, and involuntarily, I just jumped up, and something told me, run quick, you're in trouble, you're going to die, run quick. And I ran out the back door of the restaurant, ran across the restaurant, left my wife and my friends, and ran across the restaurant, ran out the back door, and the voice said, run quick, you're in trouble. Go across the street to the hotel. And I screamed, and I remember yelling, I can't go across the street. It's a main, you know, there's traffic out there. And it said, run, there will be no traffic, run. And so I ran out into the street involuntarily. I was not making a conscious decision to do any of this. It was being foisted on me. And I ran across the street, and as it so happened, there was no traffic for that little stretch. I ran out, and it said, go out around the hotel. The voice said, run quick to the hotel. And I ran around the hotel, and it said, all right, you're safe now. Now you're safe. And I sat down, my heart was pounding, and I kept thinking, what did I just do? And how am I going to explain this to my wife and my friends? What I just did, involuntarily. I don't know what happened. That happened to me twice. The second time was a few months later in Los Angeles. I was on the corner of Fairfax and Wilshire Boulevard in a little coffee shop called Johnny's Hamburger Stand. It's a little restaurant. I was sitting at the counter, and I noticed peripheral vision. I didn't look over to see them, but peripheral vision, I saw two guys walk in. And as I walked in, immediately an electrical shock hit me. I almost fell out. I was at the counter. And the voice said, get out quick, you're in trouble, run. And so I grabbed a bunch of money, threw it on the counter, and tripped, trying to get out of the chair on the counter. I got up, and I hit the side door, and I ran north on Fairfax. And the voice kept saying, run, your life is in danger, run quick. And I ran about 2 or 3 blocks until I was just about out of breath. And then the voice said, all right, you're safe now. You're safe now. Sit down. And I sat down. My heart was pounding again. And it was involuntary. I didn't make a conscious choice to run. I just started running. And the voice was yelling to me. It was actually like a yell. Move quick. Your life is in danger. So it happened twice to me. I have no idea what that all means. I'm just telling you what happened.
Okay, so you are positing the fact that there is a symbol, that in the symbol is basically telling the world of a new world order, and the return, or the basically a son taking control,
yeah.
And that this is happening sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you think around 2012, is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, and then you're talking also about really reptilians and an agenda, which is not quite clear, but there's something going on with
That's
that.
right. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm now asking you is whether or not that so-called king is reptilian.
Well, I don't know. And what I would say to an audience that's watching this, I've said it too many times before, but I think it bears saying again. I'm not the world's foremost authority on anything. I'm just telling you what I have seen with my own eyes, what has happened to me in my life. But I would also say to anyone who would scoff at this, just look at what I have to offer first, before you make a decision if I'm crazy or not. See what I have amassed in the past 40 years that I haven't told you, that you don't know that I have. And see the research that I have done on this subject of this new order of the world, which I started talking about back in 1960. I was sending letters to Belmont, Massachusetts. Back in 1960, Belmont, Massachusetts, I was sending letters to the John Birch Society, who had just been formed in 1959. And the John Birch Society was, of course, exposing all the communist activity in the world, especially in America.